of sharing the information after the fact with those who would need it in your club or even at a provincial level. So just to make you all aware that it is being recorded. The next thing I'd just like to talk to you about, please, is the chat functions and the comment function that we can use as we go through the evening. So if you'd like just to scroll down about 3/4 ways in your page, you'll see the little taskbar will appear. Within that taskbar, sorry, no. So within that taskbar, you'll see if you hover over, there's a show conversation section. So that's where you can pose any questions that you might have. You can type them in there to the comment section. You can do that at any time. So please feel free, if something comes to mind, type it in. Both Peter and myself will be watching those comments come through, and we'll have all the questions answered as we walk through the presentation. I'd also like to make you aware, please, of the microphone and the camera that you can see over on the left-hand side. As it stands right now, everybody's on mute. I have control here to mute everybody so that there's no background noise as we make our way through, okay? I'd just like everybody just to keep their microphone muted, please. But when the time comes again, and if any questions would like to be posed over the microphone, and when we get to the end, if any comments or experiences like to be shared, please do so. The camera, just please, again, just for the quality of our stream and to make sure it's as good as it possibly can be for everybody. We've over 50 people on the call now at the moment, so it's very, very good. Again, if everybody's camera is off, that will just allow for the best possible stream as we work through. So that's it from me. So I'm now going to hand you over to Emma and Louise Byrne. And Emma and Louise, like I say, will be driving this for most of the night and supported in no small way by Peter as we progress through. Okay, so Emma and Louise, over to you.
Brilliant. Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Mike, for the introduction. So it's great to see a good crowd there this evening giving up their time. So look, first and foremost, we hope everybody's well and keeping safe in these uncertain times. But I suppose we do have technology now. I know we've been giving out a bit, but it's great to have something like this to keep us all engaged and get back to GA as soon as we can. So we are in fact twins. So even in the real life, we do tend to finish each other's sentences. So I'm sure tonight won't be too much different. So apologies in advance. We'll hold our hands up for that already. Okay. And then speaking in terms of uncertain times, it's probably the prime opportunity for us to review our coaching practices and us as coaches then to learn, develop from other initiatives or other clubs and hopefully take away some key.
Sorry, Emma and Louise, just 2 seconds here. I just had a message there just to say that a person can't hear or see anything. Can I just get first of all, can I just reach out to the audience, please? And just a thumbs up or a yes or a no, just from a selection of people there, please. You might just type into the chat if you can hear and obviously see a screen, please. So just before we get just a selection of people, okay? Thanks, lads. Okay. Okay, so if you are having a problem, okay, with any part of the system, what I would recommend is hanging up on the call and signing back in again. Sometimes potentially there may be issues. So if you do hang up on the call and sign back in again, those issues should address themselves. Okay. Sorry, girls. Back to you again.
No problem at all. One second. Right. So you can all see that screen, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, perfect. Super. So then in terms of just a little bit of a better background, we're from Carduff in County Monaghan, very rural area. So we've been probably highly involved in coaching, always interested from probably a young age. So even probably the one reason we got into coaching was I had picked up a bad enough shoulder injury when I was about 15. And my current coach at the time probably understood that I was kind of getting a little bit frustrated at Emma going out the door playing football after it being such a part of my life. So she took me to my first ever foundation course, and I kind of went from there, started coaching on Saturday morning, and then literally took every club age group in the club. So I suppose then she really instilled a love of sport and physical activity in probably both myself and Emma. And then it paved the way for the career that we've currently been involved in. So it took us to IT Carlow for our undergraduate course. We studied sports management and coaching and specialised in GA. and then progressed to do a master's in the area of strength and conditioning and graduated there 2 years ago. The college had great links with Leinster GA, and then it allowed us to get experience doing a work placement actually in China. So we were involved in coaching GA all around 7 different cities in China. It involved coaching international schools, setting up kind of club structures in the different 7 cities, and also then coaching in the local international schools and helping out the clubs as much as possible. We also have experience then in Laois, so it's a multi-sport organisation, coaching fundamental movement skills to creche age children all around kind of Laois, Kilkenny, Carlow and Kildare. And then currently then we're with Dublin GA. So we're currently with Dublin GA as Games Promotion Officers in our 4th year. So I'm with Skerries Harps and I'm in Vincent's. Okay, so hopefully the bit of experience we've gained to date will hopefully help everyone that's on the call tonight. And again, you're continually changing our process in terms of nursery. We're going to try and emphasise best practice as much as possible. And again, we are aware that a club in Laois is quite different from Dublin, but then we're going to give our experiences with our own club here, Carduff in County Monaghan, which would be a rural club, which might be match some of the clubs that are on the call tonight. So again, as Mike said there earlier on, if you utilise the chat function there as much as possible throughout, there's a few interactive pieces we want to do, and then just any questions as well, we'll try and answer them as best we can, either throughout the presentation or at the end. Okay, so we're going to just, the kind of 4 key areas that this presentation is going to be based around, okay, is the ambitions for our club. We feel probably sometimes that a nursery sometimes would be probably not as not the main focus for a lot of people. So hopefully that'll change going forward, and if we understand the importance of it. We're going to then go through the key areas of nursery development. Again, as I said, then best practice guidelines across the board, and then majority tonight's session is going to be resources and kind of pointing you in the directions to get useful resources that might help you on the ground going forward. Hopefully when this lockdown's over, we'll be hitting the ground running and the kids will be the benefit of all this. Okay, so Peter's just going to come in and kind of set the scene in terms of meetings that was held back in November there, specifically to Laois there for a second.
Thanks, girls, Louise. Just, can you let me know, girls, that you can hear me okay?
Yeah, no problem, Peter,
yeah. So, guys, you're all very welcome again, and thanks for tuning in once again. Look, it's a heavy enough PowerPoint, but it's all very relevant information. And so just to start it off, really, Mike has kind of gave you the overview already of the meeting that we had in November. But for tonight's content, we're just focusing on the nursery element of that meeting. And there was 3 real take-home messages from that particular meeting, and we tried to keep it practical as we can. The first one, we tried to stress the importance of why every club, dual, hurling or football, should try and have an established nursery program set up in their club. So we're going to delve into that in more detail, which is what we said to you back in November that we would be doing at this time of the year. The second thing then is the how to actually set one up. And it's not extremely difficult, but some clubs will need a bit of assistance, so we're going to delve into that as well. And the final one then, and it helps with point number 2, establishing one, is what stakeholders are required. And the next slide really, or the next couple of slides, the girls there will go into the fundamentals and the approach of the actual club. And we need the club on board to set up a nursery for the long term. And if there's any coaching officer listening on the call, this is where you come in with your committee. And we spoke about that too in November, where we can't leave the nursery process just to the nursery coordinator. We need to help them, and how we help them is you're one of the stakeholders. The coaching officer in the committee is one of the stakeholders to help set up and establish a proper nursery. Okay, so on the night or leaving that particular meeting, we asked you to do 2 things if possible, and the first one was recruiting a nursery coordinator. We asked the coaching officer on that particular night to see could you go and recruit a nursery coordinator, and the second thing then was to see with the coaching officer and the coordinator could they actually go and recruit coaches or parents, which is normally the case at nursery level. So just before, while we're moving on and passing you back there to to the girls, you might just type into the chat. You're more than welcome to type into the chat if you have established a nursery coordinator. Maybe you are the nursery coordinator in your club. Maybe you've been asked. So you might just fill into the chat where your club is currently at in terms of putting a coordinator in place, and if you have any coaches asked. Now, of course, our nurseries may not have started, but you could have started the process of putting a coordinator in place and the coaches. So while we move on, I'll just let you type away in there, and Tony there has typed in, or he's great to Port Arlington have. So just type away in there, and I'll pass you back over to the girls, and we'll go from there. Thanks, girls.
Excellent, Peter. Perfect. So just kind of this slide here in terms of the crest, we just put a Laois crest in, but this crest can be substituted with any club. And I suppose then it's really about between maybe the coaching officer, be it the committee, be it the stakeholders, the key stakeholders, then to kind of come up with the main club aims around this. So again, this can't be just left on one person's shoulders. There needs to be a big buy-in from the whole community, from many stakeholders, which we'll touch on in the next few slides. So I suppose just again to touch on nationwide, maybe the focus does be a lot on the senior team. So even probably last November or October when things were finishing up, the focus turns to next year in terms of, okay, we need to find a senior manager. We need to find, for the senior side of the club, we need to find extra resources. We need to focus on getting equipment, getting food for after training and all these extra things. Whereas sometimes maybe the nursery does be neglected a small bit. And I suppose the real success of any juvenile club is us taking through players year on year. So when they start at 5, that you keep them and you retain them, and that there's constant feed of players like a conveyor belt coming into the senior side. And that's true success. Although there's trophies to be won at senior level, yes, and everything else buys into that, there's no trophies won at nursery level. But the real structure and long-term success depends on your structure with nursery and the whole buy-in. Okay? So I think it has to be enjoyable and fun for all. So that's be it the child, be it the parent, be it the coach. So again, there's nothing worse than you as a coach standing on the sideline and you being told, hey, there's your bag of footballs, there's your bag of pearls or Hamlets. You know what, there's 60 children I'll see in an hour. A club needs to support that person. So it could be small roles, bring them in. It could be a group of coaches with a specific age group. So it's important that it's enjoyable and fun. It's not fun if you're landed on the hop, you haven't expected it, you're not planned, and all of a sudden you're told there's 60 children, good luck. You probably won't come back the next day. As what Louise mentioned in terms of retaining players, we also need to retain our coaches and our parents to come back week on, week in. And if they're not having fun or not enjoying it, it's not going to be enjoyable for anybody. Also in terms of having a welcoming environment. So this might be a first time that the child or the parent might experience the club. So again, what is the environment? What are they facing? Is it a friendly atmosphere? Are they welcomed? Do they know where to go? Is there directions? Is there signpost? Is there maybe a registration desk that they're going to? They can ask questions. How can I get my child involved? So it needs to be vibrant. It needs to be visible. It needs to be out there. And then also in terms of then educated, qualified coaches at all levels. So we're obviously following GA guidelines in terms of all our coaches, our parents that are working with our children are guard vetted, safeguarded, and hopefully then we'll progress to workshops and then progress on the coaching ladder, starting off at a foundation course and working the way up through the levels. So again, if this is kind of fed through from kind of top down scenario, so it has to be inclusive to everybody also across the board, that it's open to everybody. And again, new members and new blood is the heart of the GA. That's what you want in every club. And again, I think the nursery is the real crucial chance, because how many times you're really going to get players in at older levels? Probably not so much, but you've got a really good opportunity to get a cohort of players, parents, families on board with your club. And again, it's kind of like picking a bank. You kind of tend to stick with it and the loyalty. So again, you can't really change clubs too easily. So if you can get people in, instill a love of sport, instill a love of GA, they're going to stick with you. And isn't it so rewarding to see them sticking with you right throughout the journey? So again, a lifelong involvement with the club. Promotes then physical activity. So I suppose sport for us instilled a love of sport, and I suppose we notice now kind of how much it enhanced our lives as such too. So we want, if we were to meet a child that we coach in a nursery, that when you meet them in 15, 20 years time, that they're actually still involved in sport. So that's a massive thing. But again, I suppose just on the flip side of that, if they get a negative experience the first time they come down to the GA club, or a few times down the line after they have a bad experience, they're going to close the door, not just on GA, but they could close the door on team sports. And again, that's kind of given them down a very different path that we know all the benefits of sport can give. And I suppose a negative experience can just do the contrary to that. So we want to make sure it's a warm, fun environment, okay? And then again, with that, a child-centered approach and a structure behind it as well. So something we see maybe at Crow Park, a senior team doing, we try with our 4-year-olds and we're there scratching our head, why isn't it working? It needs to be child-centered. We need to have small numbers, and that's why Go Games were set up in terms of small numbers, small-sided, and everyone plays and participation for all. So I suppose each club aims could be slightly different, but again, if it's along these lines as such, and it could be a few other things as well, in terms of historically, maybe the club, etc. But if we're thinking of the bigger picture down the line, we're not just thinking year to year, we should have a long-term plan for this. So just, I suppose, just it was a European study, 10 top reasons why children play sport. 1, to have fun. And again, I suppose there's a lot there to get some exercise to improve skills. We'll not go through them all. But I suppose one thing there, you're probably looking at what's missing. So winning is missing. So sometimes I think children's sports becomes too much about winning in terms of trophy wise. Now, winning to me would be maybe the child improving their skills on week, maybe the child putting on the jersey of the club for the first time then under it. So they've been on maybe a 3-year journey if they've started at 5 years of age. And sometimes winning maybe comes from parents. So maybe when a child comes home from school and they've played a match in any sport, the first question maybe as a parent they may ask is, well, did you win? The next question maybe, did you score?
What did you score?
Okay, so maybe, again, it's kind of culturally too. We're all competitive by nature. But again, if we can try and get maybe the winning definition changed a slight bit and go from there. So it's just, again, this is general sports. It's not specifically GA, but it's important to just realise that too. So Peter's just going to come in here. There's a small little task here. This is a little house.
Thanks, girls. Just to go back on the comments, guys, some great comments coming in. Just draw your attention to one that the girls will be talking about later on, the PowerPoint. Just Dempsey's Aidan put in, they actually have a nursery set up, they say, and they also called it OD's Busy Bees. And the girls will be talking about that later on, about why naming the project or naming the nursery is so important. So fair play there. So there's loads of things, and you know, just last thing on the comments before I move on to this slide with the house. You know, this is a great opportunity for us. If we do have a coordinator in place, you'll see by the end of this show here tonight, there's a lot of planning, and there's a lot of consultation between GDAs and the coach and officers committee and the coordinator. So this is a perfect opportunity to start planning a nursery, because that's what it takes. It takes a lot of time. So just a point to make. So this task here, guys. So as we all possibly know, when you're building a house, you have the foundation, and the foundation is number 1 at the bottom there. Hope you can all see that. And then the next thing to be built is the 2 walls, which is number 2. The roof goes on next. Then you have your windows and your doors. So the task that I'd like you to try it out, and again, just type it into the chat, is there's bubbles on the outside, or little clouds on the outside. You have over on the left, you have catching, kicking, striking, passing. So they are the skills of our game. At the top, over to the right, you have agility, balance, coordination skills. Very, very basic skills. Then you have games. Then you have fun down at the bottom. And then over to the right, you have running, jumping, throwing. So what I'd like you to do is, what number, or maybe a different way of asking is, what cloud would you match to which number? That's the task. So what I want you to think about just before you start typing is, well, the house represents the child, if you like. So if we had a group of 5-year-olds starting coaching next week, what would you think would be the most important thing that we need to work on out of those 5? And I'd just like you to build your own house. So just, if you want to use the abbreviations for agility, balance, coordination, just put in ABC. Games, fun, just to make it handy for your typing. So I'll just give you a minute or so to do that. And the next slide will sort of show what way we build our house. So I'll just give you 30 seconds to a minute to do that there. If you want to type away, please do so. So there's some coming in there already. And I suppose just to say, I do this a lot in foundation, and it is quite a good task on a foundation. But there's lots of different answers come out, and I suppose, and again we'll look at this later on. But one of the key things to coaching at any age group, I think, is enthusiasm and energy. You know, which isn't necessarily in this particular slide that you see in front of you, but. So there's great comments coming in there. So, girls, could you just move on, just to keep the show on the road?
Yeah, perfect. So great to see everyone utilising the chat function there. And I suppose what Peter was alluding to there, like a lot of people have said fun, and that's exactly right. In terms of it's all true fun games. So fun and games was probably in the top 2 of a lot of people there. But what we're talking about here now is the foundation. So the agility, balance, coordination needs to be kind of the bottom level of the house, the foundations. If you don't have that, you can't really build on the extras after that. The walls of the house then would represent the running, jumping, throwing, a bit more movement based. And then after that, then your skills come on top of that, catching, kicking, striking, passing. And I suppose then fun games is how you do it. So a lot of us have that there in the chat. I'm just looking here on the other screen here, 1, 2, and 3 there. Fun and games is mostly important, yes. And then it's agility, balance, coordination is the foundation. And that's our real focus, that it's the foundations of it. Because sometimes in a club, people's looking and they probably have unrealistic expectations of the skills or what the child should be doing. Like, so they might be kind of, they're looking at you funny, just we're using bean bags or balloons or this sort of equipment that we'd be talking about in later slides. They kind of nearly want the child sideline cutting the ball from 60 yards against a strong gale force, strong wind, or doing like advanced skills when they actually can't. So the whole saying about kind of walk before you can run. So just think about any skill, like a row lift, for instance. To get down into that position, they need to be able to lunge. So they need to be able to move, need to be able to coordinate. So if they don't have the foundation skills, and I know people might call them basic movement skills, they're actually essential for any sport, and not just GA, but for any physical activity in life. If they have a good foundation here, it's just crucial.
And just the only other thing, guys, I'd add to that, if it's okay, is, you know, in order for us now, most of the children that come into us at 5 years of age, right? You'd say, well, they're all able to run and they're all able to jump. But the fact about it is that some kids are not as proficient as others at doing that. You know, I run nursery programs in national schools in some of the urban areas, Port Arlington, Port Leash, Mount Mellick, in some of the national schools, and put out a 6-inch ladder. Or sorry, a 6-inch hurdle, 3 of them in a row. And most of the junior infants, senior infants knocked them over. Why is that? Because they're lacking coordination. It's not that they're not able to run, they're lacking coordination. That's just a practical example of from my experience of what I see. So we can't underestimate the foundation. And there's and the girls will show us later on all the resources for ABC, for agility, balance, coordination. You know, should we work, just a question without needing an answer, like in order to work on catching and passing, say, or striking, do we actually need to work on throwing first? So if the kids are proficient at throwing, well, every time you throw, you need to catch. And the foundation of a hand pass, let's say passing, is a throw. So that's why we need to work on RJT before the roof, CK, SP. Sorry there, girls.
No problem. That's perfect. That's perfect. And you see it all the time in terms of even the environment as well is probably a lot to do it too. So I suppose a lot of people on the call here this evening, when you are younger as such, when you are playing, you would have been a lot more active. And we all know the stats in terms of physical inactivity, obesity, that's coming down the track with us. And again, it's a lot of it is to do with society as well, in terms of they're not allowed to run as much in schools for insurance reasons. Again, they're not even maybe walking to school, they're getting a car. They're not carrying their school bags either. School bags wheeling behind them like they're going to Dublin Airport. I know Dublin Airport's very close now. But it's small things like that. It's crucial in society, and we see them more and more on screen time. I know we're saying technology is great here for this evening, but it's not great when you think of children are kind of glued to a screen a lot of the time. Not in all cases, but in the majority of cases too. So we just need to be aware of that too. So I suppose just the house there, the coach there, the last thing we just flagged up there, you're the centre to all this. So if you're in a house, you don't want it to be cold, you want it to be warm. So your personality, you create a warm, caring, safe environment. So you're the fire in that house as such, in terms of a warm, friendly, happy coach. And again, to achieve success as such. But I suppose there's a thin line in terms of, you probably all see the hot-headed coach maybe that's too competitive, that's kind of pointing out someone's failures and maybe trying to live their maybe sport and career through the children too sometimes. So a small line like that can burn the house down too. So it's just to be aware of that also. You want a nice, warm, caring environment for the children to really thrive across all areas of their life, not just their physical, their social, their emotional needs, psychological needs. So I suppose just the research to back up that previous slide there. Move Well, Be Well project, Stephen Behan, PhD in DCU, so he was a former GPO, and we were actually involved in doing one tiny aspect of this in terms of testing first and second class children in one of our schools each. So it was assessing fundamental movement skills in about 2,000 plus primary school age children on the fundamental movement skills, and the results, as Peter said there, it's not just kind of us thinking that it's happening. Here was actually the stats. So 1 in 4 cannot run properly, 1 in 2 cannot kick, and then less than 1 in 5 can throw. So again, it was assessing them over a criteria. It was testing, it was a 6-week intervention then, and then retesting to try and improve skills. So again, all this data is trying to help coaches on the ground nearly kind of understand the importance of fundamental movement skills and how we can do it a prime opportunity in nurseries. So then in terms of the fundamental movement skills, the research also backed up that children plateau and stop progressing at the age of 10. So our nursery and our academy is crucial to actually that window of opportunity to work on the fundamental movement skills. And if we don't get our children performing our fundamental movement skills correctly and proficiently before the age of 10, it's going to be very hard for us to reverse and work on it. Yeah. So that's why tonight, that's just kind of to set the scene as such for the nursery and how important it is, the setup. So we're going to go through 5 kind of key areas here. So the nursery organisation, the structure, how we recruit maybe children into it, small little examples we have, then recruitment of parents and coaches within that, and then smaller other considerations in terms of the weather probably in Ireland is the main one here in other considerations, okay? So at any stage there, try and utilise the chat function as much as possible, and maybe Peter or Mike Hughes could try and defer a few questions there as well if needs be. So I suppose the first things first, briefly spoke about it there all, but the coaching officer as such in the club, so the key stakeholders, be it the committee, they all need to kind of know the importance and understand the importance. So it's about bringing it to their attention as such. So the key stakeholders, be it a committee, and again, I think once you have a committee set up, it's a lot easier to delegate roles rather than it being left on one person's shoulders. And then in terms of then you have to have a registration information. Are you going to give out flyers? What's your process? Are you going to have online registrations, or do you have like a fun day where children come down, get to know the club, maybe get to meet a few coaches? Are you going to charge a tour every Saturday? Are you going to have an annual fee? And then even some clubs now, in terms of the registration for their nursery, they maybe provide a registration pack. So they might get details of the club, they might get a hurl, a gum shield, if there's a pack there that they can buy at the beginning, maybe even a club jersey. So sometimes a club jersey can be a walking billboard, be in their schools or around the town, in terms of promotion club that way. And small things like that you can do, like small little things like maybe a bag with a sliotar, a first touch football, and a bag that you could do and have that on a side that this is your training pack, or kind of tidying with a jersey and the full, like a little bit of a kit or a t-shirt, and it just showcases the club in the best light also. So I suppose then communication, once you have your registration in, how you're going to communicate with parents on a weekly basis, and probably even liaising with schools here to get the information out is quite good. So we have another slide on that later on about trying to engage with schools, because again, that's where your target market is. And then in terms of promotion, you can't underestimate the power of a flyer, be it given out at the school gate, be it going around local housing estates, getting maybe older teams in the club, give them a few and send them out, and then in return, the club might get them a bag of 5 or 6 footballs as a return. Again, just it's a whole club initiative in terms of trying to get new members into the club, leaflets and promoting it, be it on social media, online, or even through school platforms as well. And even with leaflets, again, sometimes with children, you put a leaflet in their bag, or to send it home, they might forget it, it's in the bottom of the bag, you mightn't see it till 3 weeks later. So again, maybe having people in the club attire, club gear, giving out the flyers at school, have maybe senior players in the club, camogie players, ladies football, men's hurlers, men's footballers coming down, senior players, role models coming down and giving out a flyer at the school gates once a week, just as when you're trying to promote your academy that might be starting in 2 or 3 weeks time or whatever it may be. So something so small like that can have huge rewards, and it puts a face to the name also. So just in terms of nursery structure, so these guidelines come from the Ready to Play book from Ger O'Connor. So it's a resource book, very worthwhile resource to have. It can be got on the Dublin GA website. It's a very good resource to have. And again, this comes out of it, this particular slide here. So in terms of just general guidelines for nursery structure and best practice, so we'll go through a few of them here. And we'll go into more of them in more detail later on. And this could be a nursery not just in Monaghan or Dublin or Laois, it can be anywhere. So it's the same basic principles apply no matter what part of the country you're in. So again, kind of ideally in terms of max number of children per coach, etc. So max number of 8 to 10 minutes and children per station. So again, it's short, it's snappy. Children lose interest quite quickly, so it's important you have maybe a station-based model and you're kind of moving around. So no more than 10 children to a station, ideally, per coach. And then so coach to child ratio and 1 to 5. A number of children will determine the station as well. So we'll go through both our models that we're currently using in Dublin alongside what we've tried to do with our own club here in Monaghan also. So then it's important then to obviously scale your nursery to suit your own requirements. So for instance, if these say you have to go in indoors and you don't have an indoor facility, well then you're going to have to adapt your plan. We obviously want to make it maximum activity levels for the hour or whatever time limit you have on it. So they say 90% activity and 10% talk at each session. Again, keep them active for the whole hour. That could be the only hour of activity they get in a week, and you're making this fun and energetic for them all to work on all the skills. And probably from the 1 hour that they're involved with you as a club, you're trying to really instill that love of sport, love of practice and love of getting better, so that they're going to then maybe go out once or twice or 3 times in the week and practice with their siblings. So the knock-on effect of you maybe having 20 children in your nursery and you coaching them and then each going home and influencing other members of their family, be it from the very young to the very old, that they can all then try and get a bit more physical activity in each day based on some of the activities. If you make them engaged enough and they're coming back, running back to you each week saying, "Just coach, I practiced and I improved." So that's just really good if you kind of instill them, give them a little bit of homework in a fun way, obviously. And then games kind of, so 10 minutes maximum. So any game you do and move on. And then I suppose just timings here, it says about 65 to 75 minutes. We currently do an hour and a half in our clubs in Dublin. That might be in terms then, let's say the club in Carduff, then they only would do an hour as such. So again, it depends on your group, your age group, etc. Facilities, maybe pitch timings as well, or pitch slots also. So again, it depends. This is just general guidelines and it can be used to suit each individual group as much as possible too, but it is a guide to start off this process with. So then in terms of recruitment of children, so Peter mentioned in terms of the importance of maybe having a school club link. So again, in terms of our roles in Dublin, I'm coaching in 7 feeder schools, coaching 800 to 900 children in the week. And my main aim is to get the children from the school out to the club in terms of that school club link. So that's the crucial aspect of it, to try and get them into the club. So even if we're aware that obviously clubs in Laois may not have a person to go into the school, but even to just link in with the schools in terms of linking in, maybe if the school is in a close proximity to the GA field, to maybe allow them to do another 1 mile runs or use their facilities for sports days, linking with active school week. Okay, we'll send down 2 or 3 coaches to try and do a station for active school week. Again, maybe allowing players to go in and stand at the gate and give out flyers. Maybe if there was success in the senior side of the club, maybe allow them in to show off the trophies and the cups or whatever else too, and give maybe little talks as well about maybe their achievements in sports and about trying to encourage children to keep involved in sport and the benefits it brought to their life too. And probably the crucial part there is to keep principals and teachers. So you might have teachers in your club that are involved in the school, so it's keeping a good relationship with them, be it even sending out little blurbs or using their online websites to do that either. Even a small bit of equipment, so even like throwing the school 5, 6 footballs, 5 or 6 litters, some basic equipment that they can use in their PE classes too. So it's small little links like that goes a long way to try and link in with schools. So Peter, you were kind of going to mention there about the club and school link specifically to Laois.
Just to inform those that are on the call that we do have a payment scheme in place for club school link coaches, and ultimately what it is that the county board will write a cheque for approximately €7.50 an hour for every hour a coach does in their local school. That cheque will be sent to the club. The club match the amount on the cheque and send it. The club sends it to their coach. So I had worked in Wexford, and Emma was in Wexford for a while as well, and they had a CE scheme in Wexford. But I actually think that this system works better because the club can decide what person they want to go in. And for me, like this is the perfect opportunity now to possibly go and source somebody if you don't already have a club school link person. And if there's coaching officers listening, what does the club school link person do in the school? What skills do they do? What classes do they coach? Emma and Louise have said already there that their sole purpose as full-time staff members is, and of course they're in Dublin, we know that, is to get the school children into their club nursery. And our club school link coaches need to have the very same objective, you know. And as a coaching officer and coach community in our club, and if you're the nursery coordinator or just a coach on this call in your nursery, you have got to ask the question to somebody in your club: have we got a club school link, and what are they doing with our kids? You know, they have to play the fun games. They have to promote your club in their school. And when I came to Laois first, I did a lot of national school coaching, but I'm a county GDA. I did 6 weeks in your school, for example. I might do 6 weeks, and then I'm never in the club. So there's no common ground, if you like, between the school, the children, and the club. So it's vital important that there's a payment scheme there. You might as well take advantage of it. That's what I would say, you know. And the final point I'm making, girls, before you want to move along, is some of my own clubs that I've met recently, I've tried to encourage them to go for a third level student, you know, because possibly they wouldn't do 40 hours a week in college, you know. They might have 20, they might have 22 hours. So of a Friday evening, Friday afternoon, Friday morning, they possibly might be off, you know. I've worked with a lot of students this year from different clubs in Laois that happened to be the case, and they're excellent coaches because they've savage enthusiasm, and they want a bit of money as well, and it suits them down to the ground. So that's just an idea to put out there. But the point of this slide here is establishing a nursery is a really good move, but alongside that, your club school link coach, and you may need help on that. You need to give us a call if that's the case. Girls, I don't think you have anything else to add to that. If you do, work away, but that's all I have on that one anyway.
Yeah, brilliant, Peter.
I'm just going to pop in there, lads, before you continue, if that's okay.
No problem.
So just a couple of messages there with questions that relate back to the last slide. The first of those is that at 1.5 hours a week. So that's in relation to the timing of the session, of the nursery session. So the question is that for 1.5 hours a week?
Yeah, so in Vincent we do an hour and a half on a Saturday morning. We also have an option on a Wednesday evening as well, so it's an hour long as well. So in total you'd have 2.5 hours in the week of academy, but the majority of our children would attend on the Saturday, and then we'd have the few extra that would go on a Wednesday, but it's optional, it's not compulsory.
Okay.
In my case currently, the Saturday morning, in my case then the Saturday morning is the only, let's say, for the academy structure at the minute. It's just the 1.5 hours on a Saturday, but you're encouraging them to practice throughout the week. A lot of them will be getting it in the schools as well. So, okay,
and I think that's that's one session a week at the moment. I think would be perfect within our own county here. The next question, please, girls. Okay, so is 1 hour optimal for a session considering the attention span and energy levels of the children of this age?
Is 1 hour optimal? So I suppose sometimes there's a lot of restrictions with that. So again, parents coming down, they don't want to be there for 2 or 3 hours. So in terms of if it's short, snappy, but if it's organised, so maybe that will be touched on maybe in the next few slides in terms of the actual structure of our games and actual session planners. But again, well aware of children's attention span and everything else. But if it's short, snappy, and it's maximum activity levels, as Emma mentioned earlier on, they're actually going home absolutely wrecked from it too. It's kind of good as well.
And just maybe one thing to add to that, if you do employ a station rotation model, there's plenty of variety, possibly. So the kids are going to be engaged possibly for the hour, or possibly to carry out all the stations, you'd need the hour if it's only 8 to 10 minutes. Fair enough to say?
Yeah. And that's probably the job of the coach in terms of to make it as fun, as energetic, and maybe to act on your feet. So for instance, if a station's meant to go on for 8 minutes and you have already done 3 minutes and you find the children are losing the attention, it's up to you then as a coach to use step model or the idea model, change it up and make it as child specific as possible. You realise the children are losing attention, so let's change it up.
Very good. And the just the last one for now, girls, and again, you may have experience of this. So it's a statement, I suppose, more so than a question. But the majority of kids that would be due to go to nursery born in 2015 are in play school. So it's hard to get to those kids, obviously enough, until they go to school in September. So would you have any practical experience there, or maybe an answer or a guide to that question, please?
Yeah, so I suppose like even just liaison then. So again, in your club, if you have a committee there, some parents might have children that goes to that creche. If we're just saying there's 3 creches down the road in the one area. So then if they have that link already with the manager, instead of a stranger rocking up with flyers, you could be really told no. Whereas I think if you have a parent there, or just the nursery is on a Saturday morning here, it'd be really beneficial to your kind of children. It's an extra kind of offering of the creche to kind of give out this opportunity that they come down, even let them test it out. So sometimes in the summers we would do kind of tester sessions for the current age, and that's what I'm planning. Well, I was planning, let's say, for that this summer. Hopefully it will fruition, but it was kind of like open days specifically targeted at ECCE children, that kind of age group. We're talking 2015, 2016 children. So in our current academies we would have that age group, but you're probably targeting now 2016 age group more so now.
Okay, no problem. And if there's Anya, if there's anything to be developed from there, we can obviously link in with Peter, and in turn we can get in contact with the twins as well for you. Thank you. Okay, girls, I'll mute myself again and off you go.
Super, no problem. The slides are all working okay, are they? Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine.
Perfect.
All good.
So,
yeah, the quality of the sound and picture is working well for us so far. Yeah.
Perfect. Just let us know, Anya, because we're on, and so again, Wi-Fi might be an issue. So again, just recruitment of parents and coaches then. Okay, so just then in terms of recruitment of parents and coaches, so again, I suppose 2 clubs in Dublin if we're talking about these, and specifically, but 2 different approaches. So in terms of Skerries, for instance, I would have a panel of about 40 coaches. Majority would be TYs or have started with TYs, but now are currently maybe doing their leaving cert, maybe 1st or 2nd year, 3rd year in college. So they're my kind of age bracket from about 23 right down to about 15, 16 would be my youngest coach. So again, there's different levels kind of, and they progress, and they kind of do enjoy it too. And I think it's really good to keep them engaged. There's some people who do play, who continue to play with the club, and there's some who maybe just have fell out of kind of playing or whatever else, but they're still involved in the club. And I think that's very worthwhile that maybe teams at under 16, under 15 and under 14, they can see that there is a place for them in the club, and the kind of the give back kind of to the club about all they've got in return as well. So that kind of model works well for me, and also linking in then maybe with the Gashka Award in terms of getting so many hours, and also the Future Leaders course, which is a new course as well. Whose Emma's is a little bit different. So in terms of my club, then I don't have as many kind of students or TY. A lot of them are going off refereeing on a Saturday morning. So I would heavily rely on parents, new parents, and I'd upskill them, do workshops, foundation courses. They'd be my main coaches in my academy. So 2 different clubs and 2 different approaches. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's probably what suits your own club. Probably the one then drawback I would find then sometimes is, let's say the 2012 the boys and girls who are currently now the under 8s as such. So next year's 2013 boys and girls. So sometimes there's a bit of a reluctance then because parents have seen 2 or 3 years, and it's kind of coaches taking lead. So I have to kind of have an approach then to try and engage them, upskill them, and then generally look out of a panel of maybe 10 or 11, 12 coaches, as many as possible at the start, and then you're going to lose a few throughout, but try and engage them. So I'll probably speak about that later on when we're on our slides in terms of our workshops, or particularly. So again, as Louise mentioned, in terms of targeting, whether it's the present players at 15, 16s and 17s, some of them might have younger siblings that's involved. They love it, and I think the children really buy into players in the club being coaches as well. Obviously, maybe even past players who might have just finished up or hung up their boots. They might have hung up their playing boots, but that doesn't mean they have to hang up their coaching boots as well. And sometimes it's a good approach as well to have. Those in our club in Carruth, in the ladies' side, so there'll be a rota done for the senior ladies, and there'll be 5 or 6 players present at every Saturday morning session. So that's been something that's been worked on, And again, it's a new face, it's a new idea coming down through each week. So something like that is good. And again, it's a culture that's kind of ingrained. But maybe because we've had such a great experience with coaches, we were fortunate to have great coaches growing up that really looked after us in more ways than just on the playing field, and were happy enough to be given back now to the club and see the rewards, and hopefully that conveyor belt continues going forward. They'll be in the club connected as well. Yeah. And I suppose the one thing is, at any academy and any nursery, we'll see a little video later on, you'll have loads of parents standing around, and maybe on a Saturday morning they're having their coffee cups, etc. So again, it's maybe having a person who's really good at approaching people, and kind of that shoulder tapper is all it is, because people are kind of just itching to be asked, so they won't put themselves out maybe for a lack of confidence, etc. But if you kind of just ask them, and it's all they can tell you is no, but you go and you ask them and you say, I have a small job for you, will you do the time for me there? I can't keep track of everything. And they're doing the time in 1 week, and then the next maybe just I want you to assist here with these 2 coaches, and then slowly but surely they're probably the lead coach in the club. And I suppose that only happens by asking them. And sometimes there's the opinion out there maybe that have to had some experience with playing GA to be a coach. And from what I found as well, like it's a mixture of both, that players or parents who maybe haven't had experience with playing GA sometimes turn out to be the best coaches in terms of their empathy with children who maybe aren't getting a skill, and they're learning alongside the kids. So it's fantastic to see also. Obviously, we know then the importance of getting onto the coaching ladder in terms of starting off at foundation level and working way up. But even before the foundation course, a lot of clubs are doing, say, workshops so if you're going to do a nursery, you might get a few parents down in advance, or a few maybe your target coaches, get them down, maybe go through your plan and how the session's going to run in a week or 2 time, just to give them an idea and get their bearings in terms of what they're going to be doing on the Saturday, and then in terms of even club info evenings as well for parents. And then, as we said, there are small roles and responsibilities, so give a small target, and then it's not that daunting then, instead of taking on the whole thing. And then even in terms of roles and responsibilities, some people might want to coach, some people might want to do the admin at the desk, some people might want to wash bibs, they could gather footballs and slitters that go over the net, they could be just feeding gear. I need an extra 5 bibs, will you get that for me? So again, it's the importance of being asking someone, and then having different roles and responsibilities. There's plenty of roles and responsibilities, it's just getting people to fill them roles. And even in terms of our experience, on our registration form, there'd be a tick box at the end of our registration form, and it'd be, we need you, are you interested in coaching, maybe fundraising, it could be desk admin, it could be promotion, gear, sorting out gear. So it's just people have loads of skill sets, and it's trying to maybe match that with the roles and responsibilities that you need to fill as a club. I suppose at nursery level then it's crucial, because you've got new parents that really, really bring fresh ideas, loads of new energy, loads of initiatives that can really benefit the club as a whole, not just in the one area of the nursery. They could have huge skills of huge value at other areas in the club. It's just about asking and building up that relationship with them and supporting them as they go along. So then other considerations then, I suppose, so it's
sorry girls, I might just pop in there. I'll take the point up offline with you again, Eamon, but just to the question here from Eamon, lads, okay, the majority of club schooling focuses on primary schools. It is crucial to focus in post-primary area and retention, any area for development in Laois. Any suggestions welcome. So I suppose there's no harm to answer this question now. There's such a vast number of people on the call. So going back to what Peter would have said, I suppose, at the start of the conversation, and what we would have said at the start of the coaching officer conversation last week, our area of focus at the moment, ultimately, I suppose, is to work on those foundations, as we were seeing with the house. So, i.e., on our coaching officer, getting that in place, our coaching committee, our nursery, our club school link. Okay, so that's our focus right now. To date, we have somewhere between 50 and 60%, I suppose, of our clubs represented within the schools, with a good, solid club school link structure in place. So we need to develop that. There's 57 primary schools in the county, 57 to 60. That's a lot of ground to cover, and Peter would have touched on it there, that I suppose ultimately the GDAs are not going to get around to all those schools and not going to spend a savage amount of time in all of those. It's not viable. However, as it stands at the moment, we do have time, and we are allocating a lot of time and resources towards our post-primary schools, be that on a coach developer capacity, a direct coaching capacity, and an S&C capacity. So I would love it if we got to a situation where all our primary schools were covered with a club school link, and in turn, if the clubs had people going into the schools in conjunction and in cooperation with the schools and with the GDAs, that would be a brilliant place to get to. So it's I am aware, I suppose, Eamon, and everybody else, that that it is something that happens in other counties, but as it stands at the moment, our focus is on the primary school sector, but we do put a lot of time and resource from the GDA team into the post-primary schools. But it's something I'd like to discuss further with you, Eamon, but I just like to, it was an opportunity for me there, I suppose, to sing the same song again as we would have been singing last week, as we would have been singing during our meeting there in November about where our focus lies right now. So over the next couple of days, Eamon, we'll get on the phone and we'll discuss that further. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for commenting. It was good maybe just to be able to fit everybody in and where we stand. So this is why we're doing this tonight. This is why we done the coaching officer part last week. Okay, girls, I'll hand it back to you.
Brilliant. So kind of the nursery is just kind of one block. So that's kind of our focus in terms of this presentation. So I suppose just the best utilization of space and equipment. So sometimes the nursery, like the main pitch needs to be nearly protected sometimes. So I suppose what we've tried ingrained is if you put the academy at the back pitch there, the training pitch that's mucky and it's not really that appealing. So again, maybe people can't see it from the main road. So you put it on the main pitch, you get the best section possible. You showcase it to everybody. It's pride of place, but that needs to be buy-in, because obviously then maybe someone else wants to train, maybe the senior footballers, senior hurlers, ladies footballers, camogie players want to train on Saturday morning, and that's the prime slot. And I suppose just in Dublin, slots is crucial, is key. They're hard to come by. So I suppose having the academy pride of place, centre of action, you're only going to have more people. So every week I'd have 5 or 6 parents approach me during a session and saying, just like, what's going on here? I want to join in, because they see it and they see the colour, they see the buzz around the place, they hear it more so than anything. So again, if they're down the back, at a back pitch somewhere, or that, they're not going to see it. So again, maybe just utilising the space you have as much as possible. And then just on terms of utilisation of space and equipment, we said about fun and warm and child-centred environment. If I get hit with a size 5 slitter, it's probably not a positive reaction. So again, it's using appropriate equipment, and we're going to touch that in the next few slides. So it's the first touch, slitters. If you're doing hurling activities, it's hemlets, hurls. You could start off with the little cool tech hurls or the soft ones as well. So again, it's trying to utilise the space and equipment to suit the children you're working with. Probably one pet hate of ours is that you see a bag of slitters or a bag of footballs and there's loads in the bag and the coach is only using 2 or 3. Use as many as you can possibly do. And we want to aim for 1 ball per child if possible, but now that I know that's not always the case. But it's utilising the equipment you have as best as possible. And I suppose the conversation in around indoor and outdoor areas. So you see probably some clubs maybe keeping them indoors all the time. So there's pros and cons of it. I suppose in my club in Skerries, let's say, so we don't have an indoor space, so it's outdoor all year round. So again, you use what you have in front of you. You encourage the children obviously to have many layers and they can take them off to get warm. You don't want them coming out and it's really cold in the winter, maybe, and it's really cold. And you don't want them coming out in shorts. Or you raid the lost and found box usually at that case. And then even in terms of then rural and urban areas, so there's different demographics obviously in Laois and every other part of the country. So again, it's tailoring your considerations, whether you're going to have it in maybe the school hall and then you're going to eventually bring them out maybe when the weather gets a bit better into the club, and what area that you have in the club as well. And then the whole focus kind of that it's appropriate to each child's needs. So again, that the whole activities are child-centred or age-appropriate. So again, there's a big difference between a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. So sometimes then we find maybe with children, I suppose, the reluctance to let them go forward a little bit. So sometimes in Dublin, for instance, there would be a 6-year-old or 7-year-old who's maybe been in the academy 2 years and wants to play up with under 8s or 9s. So you try and kind of, again, numbers dictate. So maybe sometimes in a rural club, I'm well aware, in our own clubs, we probably play it up quite young also, if it's a numbers game, but where possible, keep them at their own age level, because all of a sudden then if that 6-year-old goes up and plays on the 8s or 9s, all of a sudden when his team comes through at that age, he's nearly too good or she's too good for it in terms of attitude and all the rest. So again, one really good player, a standout player, we have them all, we see them, they're the diamonds as such, but they need a team around them. So by pushing that player up to the next team, and then maybe players at that age group not getting a game because this really good 6-year-old or 7-year-old is coming up and playing in space. That's in terms of retaining players at that older age group is detriment too. And what's that really telling them? That, oh, here, there's a person 2 years younger than you is better than you, we're playing you. So again, it needs to be a club ethos going forward, but where possible, if it's age appropriate, keep them at the right age group. Again, numbers is another ball game. If they need to play up to field a team at a certain age group, we understand that too, but where appropriate, try and keep them in their own age groups. And that all children develop their own rates, and it's just giving them time to blossom and to develop their own rates. And don't pigeonhole them either. So if we want to call them a C player or a D player now, they could out-surpass everybody, and by 12 or 13, they could be your best player in your team. So it's important not to neglect that and take everybody through retainment-wise. So Peter was just going to run through their Nursery Yearly Plan Pacific to kind of Laois area.
Now, girls, can you hear me there?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So guys, look, this slide here, we're well aware possibly that, again, we have coaching officers listening to the call, and this sort of is a role again for yourselves. And then also we're aware that there's maybe new coaches who are joining the club or who have been asked to join the club for the first time. So we thought then maybe a yearly guidance or a yearly plan would be good. So we possibly all know that coaching the 5 and 6 year old is extremely high energy. It's draining. When we coach that age group, are replacing their mother and father for that hour, possibly, if the parent don't stay around. So it can be daunting if we're faced with a group of 30 kids, if we're lucky, or with the girls they're faced with hundreds of kids. So it can be daunting. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put a structure in place across all the clubs in Laois. You can follow it, or you can take bits and pieces of it. But ultimately, what we're sort of suggesting is, if you will just say you start in the February month and you do 6 weeks, 1 session a week, your hour session, and then why February and March? Again, you can start any time of the year, but I just decided to start in February. You run 5 weeks, five 1 hour sessions every Saturday morning, or whatever week you pick, whatever day you pick, and then you actually run a bit of an experience for the children at the end of that block of coaching. So, for example, the end of March, we'll come the end of March there, and you could run an Easter bunny. You could ask one of the, now you might say, well, that's absolutely crazy. That's mad, like. But you know, we have to put our feet in the shoes of the 5-year-old. We still want them playing with our club when they're 25 years of age. So what we need to do for the first 2 to 3 years of their playing career with us, we need to enhance the experience, and that's all about fun. And then give your coaches, if you're the coordinator listening, if you're the coaching officer, insist that your nursery takes a break for a couple of weeks to let your coaches, or your parents in this case possibly, to re-energise. So there's a bit of downtime. There's a little bit of planning. It gives the club and the coordinator a chance to meet with their GDA possibly and plan the next block of coaching. The next block, then, you can see it there yourself. You might extend by a couple of weeks. You might do 6 weeks. And then you might run a summer barbecue. Most clubs possibly do that as it is. They run a family fun day in the middle of the summer, you know. But what I would do in that scenario is I'd make the nursery, or as the girls keep referring to it as the academy, the absolute centre of that particular fun day. And that's a way for the children and their new parents in the area to get known in the club, and for the club to know them, and for them to know the club, you know. And then look, you can read it there again, another break, do another few weeks then, July and August, and then you can see down along another break. I'd suggest, you know, and maybe the girls agree or disagree, but in households, September can be a very busy month. You know, maybe they're starting school on, you referred to it earlier. They're starting school in September for the first time. So maybe just give that a break, possibly. Your club school link coach can get to know them. And then you start up again with your flyers, with your leaflets, with your notice board in the school. And again, September gives you a time to plan. to get those new children again that start to school, to get them back in the club during October. And you're heading for Christmas then, and sure, Santi comes then. So and this plan, I suppose it's important to say, the plan is not solely for the coordinator of the nursery. The coordinator of the nursery is going to be busy enough getting out the text, planning the sessions. This plan here should be taken by the coaching officer and its committee, and should be driven at that level, you know, and that can be great support then to the coordinator and his or her coaches that are coaching in the nursery. So I suppose the final point I make before I hand you back to the girls is, this is not the nursery or the academy or whatever you want to call it, is not like your typical under 11 session, or your under 11 year, or your under 15 year, where, right, we're going to start in February and we're going to train every week continuously leading into games. The nursery project doesn't have to look like that, you know. Girls, I don't know, have you anything to add to that template? I know that you possibly don't do that in Dublin because you're driving the academy, but I was just thinking with the context of volunteer coaches and new coaches in a club, that's all.
Yeah, so I suppose like in Skerries, for instance, then we break it into 3 terms. So I suppose with Skerries, there's so many different activities. So maybe people in January, a lot of them tend to want to do swimming for like 4 or 6 weeks. So I break it into about 3 12-week blocks as such, roughly speaking. So September to Christmas, break for Christmas, start back middle of January to about Easter, and then take a break for Easter, and then Easter to the summer. And then we generally finish up in June, and then they take July and August, and then start back in September. So again, that's just the structure. And again, it allows people kind of in and out. So they might choose one term or they might choose another. And it gives them then, particularly new people starting, they feel daunted maybe by a full, oh geez, I'm signing up for a full year here. I'm only signing up for 10 or 12 weeks. Let them see how they get on. And then it's up to us as coaches to make their best, get them the best experience possible in terms of, it's a competition in terms of all other sports in the area, so many activities. So we want them to enjoy it so much that they keep coming back.
And girls, I just make 2 other points. The first one is to the coaching officers and those people. Like, you can expand this plan a little bit then by sitting down with your coordinator and your GDA. Say, right, the first 6 weeks there in February, what's our focus? We'll only plan the next 6 sessions. What's our focus? And the girls there later will show us the resources, the online resource that are very easy to access. And you just sit down, you can plan. So you're helping the coordinator. And then the second thing is, this is a great template to start talking to your GDA. You know, the club that you're in may never have had a proper nursery set up before. So you need you need extra to this call. So you can have that slide and you sit down with your GDA, right, what do you mean exactly again by this? And that can be a starting point for us to start helping you in your club as a coaching officer or committee, or the coordinator of the nursery. Sorry, that's it, girls, there for me anyway on that one.
Thanks, Peter.
I'm just gonna hop on very briefly. I know we've been on this slide for a while, but look, from my point of view, I suppose, in the coaching and games point of view, if for argument's sake that the clubs in Laois were to take that plan that Peter had outlined, and everybody was to run with the same sort of a plan, the same time scale, the same sort of stuff being done on during the sessions, it would just allow for consistency, I suppose, and it would allow for an understanding from a coaching and games point of view that yes, this is what all the clubs are doing. And for us, I suppose, for something that's very, very difficult to measure in terms of how are the children progressing and everything else, at least if we could have a situation where we had consistency across the county in terms of what we were doing with our children, we did have an opportunity perhaps, I suppose, for one club to work with another. And if everybody's working towards the same thing, reading out of the same manual, then perhaps it would make it a bit easier for us, I suppose, to develop a really, really solid and sustainable nursery in all our clubs. So for me, and I suppose, being selfish, perhaps, I suppose, if we did have that consistency, it would definitely help. Okay, girls.
Perfect. So we're even in terms of my yearly plan of Vincent's, I'd go with the school term. So I'd break just for summer in terms of your camps then as well. Just a quick task there, like if you want to just think quickly there, what equipment do you think is suitable for nursery level? So if you want to put a few ideas just into that chat function there, maybe on the group, And we can move
20
on then,
seconds.
maybe 20, 30 seconds there in terms of what equipment you think that's needed for a nursery.
Size 5
Roughly.
litters. What is it?
Size 5 footballs. Very good. First one in, balloons.
I like it.
Shane, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. A bag of 20.
What about if you're
€25.
outside now? A string.
But great ways, and so many games to do with balloons, and we actually have them in our resort as well later on. We've loads of videos. Variety size balls, brilliant. Yeah, small, big, every size. Hurlogs, the very small
Brilliant.
hurls, which kind of move away from maybe needing helmets straight away, because sometimes the helmets, when you put them on, but we'll speak about that in a minute. So we'll fire on to the next slide there now. Very good answers there coming through. So again, we're very aware that some of the equipment can be quite costly for a club, particularly if this is you starting up. So again, where possible, like they might dictate first touch footballs, but even if you have like any ball will do, like to start with, and as many colours and range as possible. Even in terms of ladders and hurdles, an awful lot of maybe older teams who bought loads of them and they're in some back of a store or someone's boot of a car and they're not being utilised. So it's a simple thing is, do you mind if I borrow the under 16s hurls and ladders for a Saturday morning for an obstacle course? Or sometimes all you need is a few hurls as an obstacle course and put them down. Or you can even, I've seen people spray paint onto the ground either. And sometimes then even parents or people involved in your nursery, they might be involved in various businesses and such too. And sometimes they get a lot of kind of free merchandise. Like I know just different pharmacies might have different bibs. And again, utilising that. So if the parents have a positive experience with your nursery, I don't know how many times people come down with water bottles to me and here, these are in the thing, here's 100, whatever, 100 little new equipment. And again, it's just once you have a positive experience, you've got that relationship with them, you'd be surprised what will come from it. And then just in terms of gear, I think it is very important to maybe write the name of the club on the gear and whether it's mini leagues or nursery or academy, because they do tend to get maybe a few cones left there and a few bibs and whatever. So if you write the names on them, and probably if you count them as well, maybe look after them a bit more, because we're all maybe guilty of letting a few footballs get into the ditch or over the fence and we don't go after them. So I get the children begging enough to do my head too. So I suppose just beanbags are coming in there a lot too, which is massive. The beanbags are quite costly, but even putting like rice in a sock. So I suppose our academies have stopped when all this lockdown began, but we've been doing 5 weeks of our academies now online virtually. So Emma does hers at 11 o'clock, I do mine at 10 every Saturday virtually through Microsoft Teams, this platform we're using this evening. So again, we understand that children won't have beanbags at home and we want to do exercise with beanbags. We understand they might not have a football at home, so we're getting them getting Raven sock draws, so they're getting soloing toilet roll tins of beans, socks with rice in it, rolled up pairs of socks for just basic movement skills for half an hour, 40 minutes, and you're engaging the children and their parents as well. So again, there's ways around it. Even water bottles, fill them with sand or water, and they can be your targets. Your cones are your targets. And you can't underestimate the power of tyres as well. Obviously not for burning them in a fire, but just for striking, they're crucial as well for hurling development as well. So I suppose just wanted to show you kind of a quick video. This is just 7 seconds long, just to show what happens nearly at Saturday morning, just a quick guideline. So that was a very quick video. Did it come through okay there, Mick?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so just a general guideline to set the scene for the next slide as such. So again, a lot of parents there along the railing. So again, I have my younger coaches, let's say, in each station. So about 9 stations there on the pitch. And again, just to show kind of the hive of activity, the noise. And again, I suppose just to show the road, let's say, at the end of that video, the road, like if this is on the main pitch, it's very visible for people along the road to see it. And that's what it is. The people walking by sees it, they're interested, and all of a sudden then they're in the following week. So again, that's crucial. So just to set the scene, I suppose, for in terms of my stations, this was right up until the lockdown. So 2013, 14, 15 and 16 would be my key age group here. You'll see just behind the goals there, my 2013s progress. So they kind of graduate from the academy as such, and they're doing their own specialised training in preparation for next year. Well, let's hope there's a next year that we're all working towards, but that's their area. So they're behind the goals. You're trying to really recruit parents there, a big drive to recruit parents, get them doing workshops, organise challenge matches, which I had loads arranged, but obviously then this whole thing happened. But then I suppose if we just focus on the main pitch, so I have that area behind the goals, my 9 stations. So my focus, if I wanted to divide the 9 stations, it's 3 hurling and camogie based exercises, 3 agility, balance, coordination areas, and then 3 Gaelic football. Again, just stakes that I have out, you might have seen it in the previous video. So the stakes, and they go to the board each day, they see their names. The coach gives them a name tag, which is crucial. So the name tag, then the children don't even realise to have it on them, and all of a sudden the coach knows my name. And as they move through the stations, every coach knows their name because they have their sticker
Unless they switch them.
Unless they switch them, yeah. So again, just to have a signpost there, the parents are all aware of these plans that myself and Emma have done up. So they realise, okay, Louise or my child done 5 stations today in Skerry's Academy. Here's the 5 skills she did. I'll practice at home then. So again, as I said, the terms wise, then the term after Easter would be a brand new set of exercises and drills, and again, weather orientated too. So you could probably incorporate a bit more kind of groundwork as well in terms of the better weather, the better surface as well. So we'll move on to Emma's there.
So mine's station based within areas. So I have 3 boys areas on one side of the field, and then I have 2 girls areas on the other. So my boys 2013, which are next year's under 8s, they're kind of broken into 4 different areas. So one's focused on football skills, another area is football matches, hurling skills and hurling matches. And then in them matches, it's more game specific in terms of the reward and skill points for the skill that was worked on that day, be it the block or the high catch, and you're rewarding in them matches. In terms of my 2014s, then 2 hurling areas, 2 football areas, and then they just rotate round. And then my 15s and 16s for my 4 and 5-year-olds, there's an ABC area, football area and hurling area, 2 each. And then in terms of all our warm-ups will be fundamental movement skills, and then girls follow a similar process in terms of 4 stations, the youngest girls and the oldest girls, and just switch around.
And again, plans like these, it's just to give the coaches that you're working with like 5 or 6 or 7 ideas of each skill. So it's not set in stone, there's adaptability in it, but it still gives a guide and a focus. So then I suppose you might think the Dublin clubs, there's not really much resemblance to maybe a rural club. So the next slide here now is Carduff Nursery as such last year. Now obviously just the nursery then was meant to be getting up and running just as this whole kind of lockdown came into play, but this was just last year's plan. So again, we probably were not as involved as much in our own club as we'd like to be as previous, just with our current roles. We can't be 2 places at once, but we do try and help them with workshops and plans and all the rest to try and get them really into it. And then again, we're working with a lot of the players we're playing alongside and getting them coaching in these stations. So just one thing to note there, in a small rural club, it's not just the 4 or 5 age groups that we worked in Dublin. There's literally under 6s right up to under 12s, and that's across the section. So this is just the girls section, for instance, but the boys and girls generally all train on a Saturday morning, so it's a hive of activity. There's 2 full-size pitches, and again, it just kind of, we found that helps in a rural club when parents are going with maybe 2 or 3 siblings, that they go on their Saturday morning, they go an hour. A lot of the parents might do their own exercises around the tracks, the running track, etc., and then they've nearly got all done within the 1 hour with that. So again, just probably to note, there are the 6, 7, 8s at the top, moving around from station. So it's not that 6s are with 8s, it's like the younger cohort. So the 6-year-olds, there could be 7 or 8 station 1, for instance, the 7s are at station 2 and the 8s are with station 3, but then 3 stations are more age appropriate to the younger cohort. And likewise on the opposite end of the field, then it's more maybe specific to station. So the coach stays at the station, they get more familiar with it. So by the time the third group comes to them, they have it perfected, and they prefer that they've just got one focus, one kind of guide, and it's easier. And then the warm-ups will be done in the middle and switch over. So then this brings us into kind of the resource section here now. So this is probably what everybody, in terms of, this is what hopefully will help you going forward. So this probably looks like chaos to a lot of people, and I think at that time I'd say our blood pressure was through the roof. So just probably to set the scene in terms of this. So Colin Clear, the Learning and Development Manager with Leinster GA, approached us back in 2016 to try and arrange this. So this actually took place this time of year, March, April time in 2016. So we would have, they kind of promoted and all the rest, and then we would have come up with the activities. So the aim of it was then to try to get parents involved in a nursery setting and to show real life scenario of nursery coaching, that it's not just a stage thing and a video is lovely and you have 4 children and they're doing everything you say, something's what you face. So on that particular night, the week 1, so the first Friday night, we were told we were told maybe 25 to 30 max was going to be there. So 30 kids max we'd have. So we had planned, I'd take 15, Louise take 15, I'd get 2 parents to help me. We were going to break them in 4 stations. However, 85, I think, children and siblings and parents turned up. So again, that plan went out the window. So I think it's important to being able to adapt your plan to suit. So we have a few videos now that we'll show. So just bear with us now. So again, these resources are all available. So we're just going to show 2 or 3 of them right here. And I suppose the main aim here was when they signed up, they actually got a gum shield because there was a little bit of football involved. So in terms of regulations, they actually got a gum shield. So that was kind of a nice goodwill gesture, and it was a great idea from the Portlaoise to just give them a gum shield as such. So they had it there, and then it was a nice goodwill gesture that we mentioned earlier on. So also the other requirement was that parents stayed. So we didn't want parents along the edge of the court. This was probably a lot of children's first time experience in GAA. Again, a new environment, children do be a little bit cagey and a bit unsure. So it's important that maybe their parents are with them and they feel a bit more comfortable. So our first few tasks here are all parent-child exercises that the parents did with the child. So Emma is actually mic'd up to the camera, so she is quite loud.
Turn down your volume.
So you might want to turn down your volume a small bit. Okay, we'll show you this. Just a parent task here now.
You see that? What you got to do with your child is just mirror. They have to react to whatever you do. So for the first minute or two,
the adult is the leader. Now, do you want to go with me? High five. You two come together. Everybody. Well done. Let's try use both hands. So we're going to reach up tall. Sometimes it might be on the ground, so it's going to make it harder. Whoa. Well done, guys. That's super work. What's your name? That's brilliant, Alex. Super work. Well done. What's your name? You're very good at this. Well done.
So I suppose that's just one exercise to try and get the parents a bit more comfortable with the whole scenario. And it did work well because parents then kind of couldn't go off, they were there, and it got the children a lot more comfortable too. So just going to show one or two more here, and then we'll show you actually how to access all this then in a minute or two. Okay, so just a partner pass one then.
So then we're going to roll the ball to and fro. Well done. Let's roll the ball to each other. Super, guys. What's your name? Super. Let's see us. Can we roll the ball? Ready? You're going to catch it? Oh, and roll it back, roll it back. Well done, guys. Super rolling here. Excellent work, girls. Well done, everybody. That's good rolling. Let's roll the ball. Come in a bit. Will I move you in? Oh, gotcha. Is that okay? Ready?
And then it progressed then to standing up and rolling the ball. So we adapt our plan. At the beginning, we didn't have many. We obviously had enough equipment for 30 children, but when 85 or 90 turned up along with their siblings, we obviously had to adapt our plan. So again, that's important of equipment. So you've seen people using balloons, there was small balls, there was hitters, there was big footballs, there was everything. Just importance of adapting your plan, I suppose.
Watch, guys. Will I be able to catch the ball if I keep my eyes closed? Did I catch it? No. Okay, so watching, I'm going to throw the ball up, okay? I'm going to try to clap my hand, and I'm going to catch it. I keep my elbows close in, because if I keep my elbows up, what happens? Did I catch it? No, so we're going to spread out in this area. We're going to throw the ball up, try to clap our hands and catch. Can we try that? Clap our hands and catch. Woo! Well done, guys. Let's see us. Clap our hands and catch. Well done. See how many claps you can do. Super, catch and keep your elbows close in. Eyes on the ball. Woo! Give each other a big clap. That's super singing. Now watching. We're going to throw it up. Touch your head. Catch. What comes after head in the song? Shoulders. What comes after shoulders? Knees. What comes after knees? Toes. And then we're going to try to put it all together. Can I have your ball? Watching. Head, shoulders, knees, toes. Catch. Without it touching the ground. Can we try? Ready? Touch your head. Where do my ball?
Then that's just kind of more kind of the skill side of things. And then just I suppose beans, just one more here now and we'll move on to the resource. Just to give you an idea. Are them videos working okay?
Yeah, they're working fine. Yeah.
Tall bean, open our tippy toes. Who can tickle the clouds? Who can tickle the clouds? Tickle the clouds. Tickle the clouds. Tickle the clouds. You tickle the clouds. Ready? Belly bean, line of belly. Tall bean. Swimming bean.
Do you mind just pause there for a second?
Yeah.
Frozen bean.
Guys, just to those on the call again, like I don't know, the video is a little slow for me, but like if you just look at what I spotted there, we're going through this there twice, 3 times a day. Like we have all the structure and all the how to organise our nursery and everything else, but we can't forget the fundamental of coaching, which is our enthusiasm and our energy. And like Emma just portrays that like in abundance. That's the one thing I noticed. And if you notice, she has no equipment at all. She has no cones. It's her body language and her voice projection. And if you look at all the kids for the next minute or so, they'd follow her out the door if she went out the door. And these kids are going to keep playing if we coach like this, and that's difficult to do. You know, myself and Emma were talking today, and she says, I don't act like that all the time. And when I coach, or my coaches, whoever, we can't act like that all the time. But we do have to put on our coaching mask when we have the kids in front of us, because they are so precious to us. It's just a point to make. Go on there, girls.
Energy levels, yeah. In terms of, I think I had 30 and Louise ends up having 40.
Ready?
Yeah.
Marching bean, let's your big strong muscles. Whoa, guys, marching bean, hop, 2, 3, 4, hop, 2, 3, 4, jumping bean, jumping bean.
So then, not exactly coaching ratios, but we had to make do what we did. So again, you'll see a drastic change for, let's say, week 2 to week 7. So you can see the results. So this is just a picture to try and explain the difference that we did from week 1, let's say, when we were just, numbers just went through the roof altogether. And then week 2 to week 7, what we did was we had a centre group, which was yellow. We sourced different coloured bibs and equipment as such. We utilised the benches around the hall, if you can see. So there's 6 areas to the left and 6 areas to the right, and 1 area in the middle. 3 each side, so 6 either side and 1. So 7 groups in total, rather than the one big group. The parents then could sit beside the area that they were in with maybe a younger sibling. A lot of them had younger siblings there as well who might want to take part on the side. The second week then, Emma was mic'd up to the camera all the resource, for the benefit of the resource for use now. And then Colin Clear would have sourced a microphone, and I was actually mic'd up to that in the hall. So you can see the microphone in the very background there. So that I could try and explain to all the parents. So all these coaches here were new from week 1. We would have sent out the session plans in advance, the session plans that use a lot of access to now. Just simple exercises. We would have set a bag for each area. So we would have then directed them to go to your bag. The next game is Ice Warriors. Go and take out 3 blue cones. Go and take out 3 red cones. Set it up as shown. So they had the 1 demo group and then ones to do with each other. So it's just a small little resource that I have. We're not saying that all clubs will need a microphone or anything else, but this was just to try and showcase this as a real life nursery that hopefully can help other people in Leinster. And that was Colin Clear's brainwave there. And I think it was ahead of time. This was back in 2016-17, but people learn a lot more than from video and actually seeing it in real life. And again, looking back on it from ourselves, we do an awful lot of things differently. Wouldn't have a microphone on to start with anything. We can't meet her in real life, but again, we do things differently going forward as well. And that's all about reflecting and changing as well. So we're actually just going to show you now the few resources here now, how to access this resource. You can all look at it in your own time. We're going to do a little bit on the activity planner and just the book that we mentioned earlier on then as well, the ready to play book as well is a really good beneficial area in this area. Just bear with me now for a second. So in order to access this resource, you need to have a GA e-learning account. So for the purposes of this presentation, you can all see the website now currently?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. So I've logged in an account that actually doesn't have access to this course. So you won't be able to find this course without creating an e-learning account if you haven't done one already, or just logging in with your one, okay? So once you're in, here's how you find it. So it's GA courses, and then if you scroll down and you're going to go coach education, let me know if I'm going too fast there. So once you've signed in, we have a Word document here of guide and steps, but I think just seeing it sometimes makes it a bit more easier. So once you've clicked courses and then coach education, if you scroll down to Leinster, when you go into Leinster, all the counties comes up, and if you scroll down to the very bottom of that page, you'll see an option of Leinster Central. So once you click that, you can see the course. So you can just either search it or you'll see it down the bottom, Leinster Have a Ball Coach Resource 2017. Once you click into that, this account that I'm logged in currently isn't enrolled in it. So all you do is enroll me. So once you enroll, it might take a few minutes just to get you enrolled on the course, and all of a sudden then you've got access to the whole thing. So just by clicking enroll me, once you find the course, that should do it. Free resource. It's a free resource. All you need is an e-learning account. Okay, so I'm just going to log out here and log in my other account, which I have access to this resource. So just bear with me for 2 seconds. So again, utilising the e-learning resource as well, also gives you access to the GA planner, which we're going to go through in a minute. So all of a sudden now I'm logged in on my account, which I have access to this course. And once you're in on your homepage and you scroll down to the very bottom, you'll see any course you've registered for. So all of a sudden then I'm in here with a number of other courses, let's say, and you've got access to the resource. So once you've done the steps that we've just outlined there before this, you can have access to it. So you'll see here there's 7 weeks. So session 1 and the dates, actually the 8th of April, sorry. So bit off. Then the 15th of April, session 2, you'll see skill cards.
There's about
links
10
to
to
all
12
videos
activities in each week.
and a video demonstration of each. So our brother Aaron would have done the video and we would have done all the editing. So shout out to him for helping us with this. So all the 7 weeks are there and you'll have access to all of this once you enroll on the course. Okay, so then another just thing maybe to go, you can show the weekly blog here. So there's like a rationale of our activities, etc. What we do for the following week. You can all see that in your own time anyway. So it's a bit of a rationale, suggestions, us learning, because this was new to us. We didn't know any of these children at all. So it was a learning curve for us, along with certain activities. So from week 1, our activities, we only planned 1 week ahead because we kind of adapted it as we went along. So if we were to go then into session 1 there, you'll see session 1, the skill cards are all there, the lesson plans there, and you can download that and have it. And there's also then skill cards, which we found worked quite well with parents, that they just literally had this card and they knew exactly what to do going forward.
We laminated them as well, so you can use them week in, week out. Or you have your 7 weeks of sessions, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then on week 8 you go back to week 1 again, or you adapt the activities or review and refresh them then.
And if we just want to show kind of maybe a hand pass or something, we'll just scroll in here quickly.
And at this point, to everyone who's listening, Mike will be sending out an email tomorrow with a step-by-step guide of how to access it. Just if, in case I imagine people are hurrying, taking notes there, we'll get the step-by-step guide there tomorrow.
So then once you have access to that resource, and I've just clicked the link there if anybody missed that step.
Card.
You have the skill card, the PDFs you can already see, and here's a video clip. Most videos are about 2 minutes long maybe, and it shows it. So
There's no volume, girls, but we can get the point at the same time.
Jay, can you come over here?
Yeah, volume there now.
Gently. Now. Okay, so this hand's going to stay still. It's going to come off the shelf. Okay, so hold this one. Close. Say bye-bye, tongue. Say bye-bye, tongue. Bye-bye, tongue. It's gone, okay, and you're going to hit it to me. Oh, nearly, okay. So look at, my tongue goes bye-bye. Bye-bye, tongue. Close my fist. It's off the shelf, and I hit it. Oh! I didn't mean to hit her on the nose. Are you okay? Ready? Swing for the belly. Excellent, well done. Let's see you, Savannah. Super. Savannah, come here. So you're going to go in 3. Is that okay?
So once you kind of see then the parents helping and assisting with the task. So again, a lot of this was around fundamental movement skills. There was a few skills, but again, it was the foundations, as we spoke about earlier, and the crucial aspect of that. And then the skills will all come back on top of that. And also it was mainly actually football. There wasn't actually hurling or camogie in this scenario, but it's just as a guide, hopefully that could help you as well. And looking back on it, 7 weeks, we would probably do a few things differently, but again, that was 4 years ago now. So that's just hopefully that you will have access to that as such. So if I just go back, are we okay there? I might just go back to PowerPoint for the last few slides and then we'll take any questions then. So actually just the activity planner really quickly when I'm here, sorry. If that's okay?
Yeah.
So just the activity planner then. So again, once you've logged in, so I'm logged in here. The e-learning site has everything. So once you're in here, you've literally access to everything. So if you enroll on that nursery resource, then here are the activity planner. So hurling football. So there's literally 24 pages of about 12 activities per each. So myself and Emma had the pleasure of doing the diagrams for all these as well. So this can be utilized resource, so you can filter it to whatever age group. So I'm just going to select 7 to 8. Then if you want to go football skill, then you can go gain and possession. You can do a body catch, for instance, and then it'll come up with the different criteria that you filtered out to be. So we can go then few activity. It'll show a little diagram, a little description, and then it'll also show a video also as well with the little game that you can watch as well. So you can show that anyway. So the beauty of this though, if you can kind of plan out your sessions, I know Peter spoke about it earlier in terms of planning our sessions in advance, and this is something we'd try and incorporate with like our under 8s, 9s, 10s, that if they plan maybe 6 or 7 weeks with our assistants, they kind of take a bit more ownership of it too, and then you're assisting with them. And if you add it to your coaching session, so I could just have a sample here, you can add this and populate this session with all different activities that you want, and then on the bottom, if you save it, and then you can go print and view session. and it actually comes up then as a PDF of every single activity that you've selected. And you can send this out to your coaches in advance. There's the step variation of what you do, organisation diagram. Obviously, the videos won't come up on the PDF as such, but you can watch them in your own time. And again, it gives a focus of what the session's about.
You can write little notes.
You can write little notes as well.
Adapt this game to suit.
Maybe that you've tried this game, let's say we did blocking a ball or whatever, and then you noticed this game was too easy for my group, I'm going to make it harder next week. So if you have them kind of all session in, your whole sessions can nearly be planned through this, and again, just using it as a guide and varying it. Is that okay for the activity planner?
Yeah, perfect.
So I just run back to the PowerPoint, would that be okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Hopefully everybody got the message up, but we'll send on a PowerPoint in terms of guidelines of how to access each of them as well.
Yeah.
So just back, you can see the PowerPoint now, yeah?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So then that's the Leinster GA Nursery resource that hopefully you'll all be able to log on. There's currently about 350 or 360 people logging in onto it to kind of see the games, and probably now is as best of an opportunity that we'll get to put a bit of time into it. And it's not a whole pile of time, but a bit of time to try and plan it as best we can. The activity planner could be useful also, and then that ready to play book, the guidelines, it's very useful as well in terms of other ideas as well. So just one or two take-home messages, and then we're done, and we'll answer any questions that we can. So just a take-home message. So children don't always remember what you tell them, but do remember how you made them feel. So even in your own sport and career, think back. You mightn't remember the nitty-gritty of matches, whether you won, you lost, but you really will remember a coach that made a profound impact on you. And I suppose we owe a great opportunity. We've had numerous coaches, but they've really instilled a love of sport and physical activity, and hopefully that's what our aim would be. If we meet some of the children we're coaching currently, we meet them in 20 years' time, the first question you'd be asking them, you'd hope that they're still involved with sport, and that you've instilled that love of sport one way or another with them for a lifelong, healthy life.
And they mightn't be the next Laois County star, but I think we nearly have to come away from it. Lifelong participation in sport.
And one other quote that really just, I think, just always sticks with us, and I suppose as Peter said there, when you go out to do a session, be it in a school, be it in a club, be it in the nursery, be it on the online virtual sessions that we're doing now, you have to give it your absolute all. You're an entertainer for them, for the half an hour, for the 40 minutes, whatever it is. So you, as a coach, will impact more young people in 1 year than the average person does in a lifetime, but make it a positive impact. Be the energetic person, be full of energy, put on a mask.
And you can take it off.
And then you can take it off and you can take a deep breath afterwards. So hopefully that was beneficial. Hopefully some people took a few things away from that. And look, if there's any questions there, there's no problem at all. There's our email address as well. Reach out for us in that sense either. Any way we can, and we'd be glad to help if
There's one question there, girls, from Thomas Brett, and it's just can anyone go into that GA website and enroll themselves with an email address and their own password to access the planner and the resources, the Leinster GA resources? The answer to that question is they can. They can just go and register themselves. Isn't that correct?
You need to create an account, yeah.
Yes.
So
with your email, Thomas, and your own password. That's correct. Yeah.
On the line, but and again, it's very useful because even all coach education going forward now, it's all going to be updated onto that. So
even people who are doing child safeguarding, a lot of the refresher ones are done through the GA e-learning. So it's a valuable tool to have.
And it doesn't actually happen. 2 minutes to create account.
Mick, I'll sign out with this last comment, guys. My take-home message from all of that hour and a half of presentation from Louise and Emma is planning. That's it, planning. And the stakeholders required in that is the coaching officer of the committee and the nursery coordinator and the GDA. And we've loads of time. The girls have alluded to it 2 or 3 times there in the last hour and a half. We've a great opportunity now to start planning. Because if you write down any fun warm-up game to work in agility now, that can still be used next January or next whenever we go back. You know, so I'd say get on the phone, get to your GDA, and start planning. You know, that's my take-home message, Mike.
Okay. So thank you, Peter. And I suppose one of the few things actually that we didn't have planned was our sign-off message. And what I would say there, I suppose, is to get people involved. Make sure you have enough people around you, parents, like the girls illustrated there. The structure of how you lay out your season, and then how you lay out and plan for individual sessions, hugely important, I think. And the last point, and it's same as always, again, for everything, folks, okay? Reach out to your GDAs, reach out to myself, okay? It's a matter of pick up the phone, send an email, whatever the scenario is, please reach out to us, make contact with us, and we'll help in any way we can. Before I thank the girls, I've already thanked Peter again for his input there, again, highly knowledgeable and very resourceful as well, and how he does his job. So ultimately, folks, we could not have had 3 better people on this call tonight. Okay, I'd like to thank everybody who joined in tonight. Okay, we had a great audience. I close on 70 people there. Okay, when all was said and done. I'm hoping that too many people just couldn't find their way in. Okay, I'm hoping that wasn't the case. But over the next few days, look, if you're aware of anyone, let us know, and we will have to try and find out what might have happened. So just from there, again, just to stress the point, if you do need anything, please pick up the phone, contact me, contact your GDA. That's what we're here for, be it now or when we get back to activity. I'd like to thank Emma and Louise, okay, and maybe just give a plug as well. They're entrepreneurs in their own right as well, okay. 2 very successful young women, so you can see that they have their own sports performance company there as well. So I'd just like to give that a plug. If there's any clubs in Laois that would be interested in giving them a ring, then you won't be disappointed. They're already working with the Kenny Sealer hurlers there for maybe the last 5 or 6 years now, girls, I suppose, is it? So they're in an environment every day, be it at nursery level or the very top level that many people, I suppose, don't get the exposure to. So I'd like to thank both Emma and Louise for their input tonight, not only tonight, but for the time that they gave with both myself and Peter in the preparation for this. Okay, it's really good. It's really good. Basically, folks, look, everything you need is right there. The girls have spelled it out, I would think, A to Z in terms of what we need to do to get our nurseries up and running. And again, off the back of this, the GDAs are there to be on the ground, be on the phone, and help you to put that process in place that the girls have outlined for us. Tomorrow, just to mention before I do say my final words, if there is any other questions or comments, if you type them into the chat, they won't be dead after we all hang up. Okay, so you can continue to type in, and anything that comes up, we'll get back to it, no doubt. Okay. The resources the girls mentioned already, and Peter mentioned that we'll have a step-by-step guide in terms of how to access the activity planner. So that will be sent out tomorrow. And I also sent out the presentation as well. Okay, so that'll be just a go-to for you to go back and to work through the process that the girls have outlined tonight. I can't thank the girls enough. It was really enjoyable, and the information was really top class. So I hope that it's not the last time that we see Emma and Louise, be that in the virtual world or in the real world when we all get back to normal. But I'm going to be calling on them again anyway. I've called on them in the past. I know I'm a good while now, and I'll be calling on them again. So that's it for tonight, folks. That's it for tonight, and I hope we'll see you all again next Wednesday and perhaps next Monday and beyond. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you very much.
Pretty much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All the best. Good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers, folks. Thanks very much.